In this video, we are going to talk about the number one variable that is going to either make or break your agency. My name is Ross Christofoli, and if you like this video, you can do me a favor. Please like and subscribe down below. And also let me know what you think of the video in the comments. Now, we work with hundreds and hundreds of agency owners over the last 2 years. It's been thousands of agencies. And there is one thing that I have found will just totally destroy an agency: the agency owner. Totally the variable that just changes everything. And here's how I can prove that. I can take my same exact systems, scripts, we use more frameworks, styles of selling, appointment setters, appointments, and put those in another agency owner's lab, and it could just fail miserably. And you might think to yourself, how is that possible? How is it possible that you could take everything else and other than, and I'm going to give you a few reasons why. First thing, here's the first one right here. How you deal with pressure. And I'm talking about all kinds of pressure. In agency, I want you to think about all of the different things that it takes to be successful. First thing is that you have to be able to get traffic, so we'll say appointments, into your agency. Then you have to figure out how to close these deals. Then you got to figure out how to fulfill these deals. And how to, number 4, maintain those relationships, and we'll just put retention. So you got these different phases here to your agency, and every one of them requires experience. That's the only way you can get good at it. I can teach you it, I can go through videos on it, but until you actually do it, you have to learn through experience. It's like learning to swim. If I try to explain to you what it's like to float and swim, just because you jump in the water doesn't mean because you read about it, you're going to know how to do it. You have to do it through experience. So first things first is agency owners, they start getting appointments, and this might take them 1 month to really start getting this dialed in. But now they start getting frustrated because month 2 is coming around, and now it's the very first time, we'll say between month 2 and 3, that they have now got to learn how to close cold outbound sales. And they will give you every excuse in the book. They will say, the person didn't even know there was a call, or the person thought that I was this, or this and that, and blah, blah. We get the same crap, and we're closing them. So the point is, and then that can frustrate people because then they feel like, well, no, that's not true. But then you hop on a call with them and you show them how it sounds, like, oh, okay, well, that didn't seem that hard. And then they get on and they flop, and it's just a process. You have to get good at every single one of these things. And then once you start learning to close sales, now what happens is you get into your fulfillment, and now you got to figure out all of these different pieces of the puzzle. And this is going to take some time for you to get good at this. We'll say that this is going to take you from the point that you start doing it, maybe another 1 to 3 months before you start feeling comfortable with it. And since they're flopping on the first few deals, they stop selling because they think, I don't want to keep selling this thing if I can't fulfill, which is actually one of the worst things you can do, because you need to keep cash flow going in your business. So that way, while you're figuring it out, you're at least making money. So that way, if you, on your first deal or two, you have to put a little bit more in than you thought, you can at least afford it without quitting. And then now you got to figure out how to retain these people. It's not just about results, but it's also about the relationship and the experience that you provide. So how long would you say it takes to become an expert in all of these things? I would say that it takes a long time to become an expert, because I'm always learning. I'm always getting better at it. But you're going to need time in each one of these things. But the problem is that you can't get good at closing until you have appointments, and you can't get good at fulfilling until you've got your closing down. And you see my point. You have to go through these things. So what's the thing? You have to be able to deal with pressure. Anybody who tells you that this agency game is going to be easy, you're going to sign up a client, you're just going to launch some ads, and you get to go sit on the beach, they're full of crap. They've never ran an agency. They are just trying to sell you a pipe dream. They're trying to sell you something, make it sound easy, so that way you think you can do it too, because it's a marketing ploy. And the reality is maybe you can't do it. Maybe you're not the right kind of person to run an agency. And if that's the case, you have to come to grips with that. Does that mean you shouldn't do it? Not necessarily. Maybe you need to become the person that can run an agency. It might be a mindset shift. I don't think that anybody can't do it, but I think that maybe the person who they are now cannot do it, cannot handle it. If you were to take the amount of pressure that I face on a daily basis now and apply that to me 5 years ago, I would have melted and freaked out. Because you start doing hard things one by one, and slowly hard things no longer faze you. You know it's just going to be a process of figuring it out. And so that's how we deal with these things. I think, and this is my theory, the difference between, we'll say, failure and success is only about, we'll just say, 1 inch. You might think, what in the world does that mean? That the difference between failure and success is 1 inch. Well, I'll tell you what happens sometimes. And I understand, so by the way, if you're a student who's experienced this, don't take this in any way that I'm pointing this on you. I'm using the experience to help others, especially because we have some really great people in the program that have, sometimes you can't help it. But let's say that you get your appointments down and you're doing really good. And you start closing, and now you're closing sales and you're doing really good. But then you start going backwards on the fulfillment piece. Well, if you stop, it's inevitable that you're going to lose money. It's almost like a stock that you purchase it and you know in the future it's going to go up, but it hasn't even gone past the spread, or maybe it went down a little bit before it's going to go up. If you sell it while it's down, you're inevitably going to lose money. But you know if you stick with it and you keep tweaking and you keep going, eventually it will make money. And I'll give the example to students sometimes. Imagine you're running a funnel and you're running cold traffic to a funnel, and most people can't get cold traffic to a funnel to convert. So you start running ads to this funnel, and let's say that every time you make a sale, you are losing $5. Now, some people might say, okay, I need to just turn this thing off. But smart people will say, I need to either put an upsell or a bump or tweak, so that way on the backside I'm making money somehow, or tweaking my offer. An example of that would be, let's say that you are doing live transfers and you're charging $350 per live transfer, but your struggle, and you're closing deals, but your struggle is that because you're not generating the leads at the right price, your cost is either breaking even or you're losing money by the time you make a transfer. Well, you could just give up and say, okay, I'm not going to do this anymore. Or you could work a different model. You're still doing the live transfer, but you run the ad spend out of their account. You charge a management fee, and you don't charge them per live transfer. You just charge them for a set amount of leads, and you add in your live transfer piece with this. They're still getting amazing results, but you've tweaked your offer a little bit, and now you're profitable. Because you're not worried about it, and they know exactly what the right expectations are. So you just readjust your expectations, you position your offer different, bada bing, bada boom, and you're set. We teach people how to do that in my program, by the way. I'll put a link down below in case you want to see how that works. But my point is that if you give up on something before it gets good, it's usually only 1 inch away. Typically, people get so close, they're in the face of having a successful agency, and that pressure gets to them, they're 1 inch away from it, and that's when they back out. And it's sad for me because I had the pressures and I had to go through different things in my agency, and there's absolutely times where I wanted to give up, but I couldn't give up because I had a child, now I have 2 kids and a wife, that if I gave up, I would be starting from scratch and we wouldn't know what to do. And so there's been times where you feel like immense pressure and you just want to be done. But people don't talk about that in agency. They always talk about the fun stuff and all that stuff. Now, for the most part, I love my agency. I would say that 75 to 85% of the time, it's the best job in the world. But the 10 to 25% of the time where there's stress, when it rains, it pours. And that's just how it is, and that's life. It's just called life. So I would say the number one thing is how do they deal with pressure? Now let me talk about the next thing. And this is going to look ugly because I did it with my hand. The next thing that holds agency owners back, once again, is themselves, but they have zero accountability for themselves and their clients and they don't want to actually do any work. They're lazy. And this is one that drives me up the wall. So I will give you an example of this just so that way you know where we're at. I have right now in our agency probably, I don't know, somewhere between 35 and 45 callers. It's rotating in and out, this and that. For the most part, we retain really well, but sometimes we hire new people and then recruit them into someone else's business. But with our callers, they do outbound, and some of them are also doing live transfers and inbound. Well, recently, we had a campaign that was running, and 2 of our callers got COVID and a baby at the same time. The baby got an infection. They're amazing callers, so I'm not going to let them go over something stupid like that. But we were down 2 inbound callers, and there was a campaign that needed help. And it was a Friday, it was a Wednesday or Thursday actually. And I knew that the client that signed up needed to get some live transfers, otherwise they were going to start freaking out thinking what's going on here, because it's been an area that's been a little bit harder for us. And this person was already starting to allude to the fact that maybe they might want to not do this anymore because it's been hard. We had a lot of leads coming through. They weren't qualified. Life happens. It happens. Well, rather than me being too big for my britches and too good to ever get on a phone call, I hopped in there. I started making some phone calls. I got a transfer over. They signed a client. Now they're happy. They want to keep going. They signed it was a personal injury case. Now, had I not done that, we had a follow-up meeting the next week. They were fine. They were, yeah, let's keep going with this. Had I not done that, we would have lost that client, had to done a refund, and we paid ad spend. As the owner of my agency, I took, number 2, accountability into my own hands, and I started double tapping all of these leads myself. I can't spell to save my life. I'll blame my mother for that. No, I'm just joking, but I was homeschooled. I did that myself, and now look at us, we're doing this. Now I want you to keep in mind, we've got a ton of clients, we've got all these staff, and I am at the top of them, in charge of all of them, but yet I was willing to go to the lowest level task to make sure something got done for my client. Here's why this is important. We talk to people who have 0 success at all. Like, I understand if you're really busy, which I can almost guarantee you are not busier than me. I hate to sound like that douchebag, but I have got Lead Carrot, I have got my agency, we have got other softwares we're building, we've got so much students and coaching, so much going on that I would say that I'm as busy as, any of the next, whatever, CEOs of their company. It's very hard to be busier than me. And yet I still made the time to help a client and to get something going. Now, I see these people that come through, they have 0 clients, but they want to be the CEO of their agency, which you should have that mindset, because if you're working on your business, you're going to do well. But every now and then, you're going to need to come in and step into your business and help and work. And if you're not willing to do that, go get a job or, live off your unemployment or whatever you need to do, because it's not going to work for you. I feel like I'm too good to be closing calls. That's not really what I want to be doing. Well, you don't have anything to back that statement. Now, I could say, hey, listen, I don't really have time to be getting on closing calls anymore, so I've hired closers, and that's true, but I have the results behind it to back my statement. So if you think that you are going to think your way to CEO, and just by doing this, everything's just going to form around you, what's going to happen is you're going to be broke with a really egotistical mindset. So you have to have accountability in your business, and it's got to be you. You got to be willing to do anything. If this irritates me, oh, my closer missed that call. Well, did you know he was going to miss it? Yeah, he had a doctor's appointment. Why didn't you get on it? Why didn't you get on the call? Well, I'm not that good at closing. Who gives a crap? No one's going to close it if just your closer couldn't get on it. You got a better chance of closing it just getting on the call and fumbling your way through it. People just don't think, and they think they're too good for things, and they think that they don't, that they are God's gift to the earth. And rude awakening, all of us, including myself, are replaceable, and none of us are anything that special. And if you have that mindset going into your agency, you are going to do amazing, because you will be willing to do absolutely anything to find success. So let's just do a quick recap here. First things first is that you have to be good at dealing with pressure. The second thing is accountability, making sure that you are not trying, if your first thought is whose fault this is and you're pointing fingers, you are not an accountable person, because it's ultimately you at the end of the day. A great example of that was, we just had a problem in our rent-a-caller where somebody signed up for our program, and we were generating some sort of leads for them, and about 2 days in, the person said, hey, just to give you guys feedback, and it's not the agency's fault, they said, just to give you guys some feedback, the last 4 people we've talked to, they weren't the right kind of client. So I wasn't a part of this. I didn't even know this was going on. Our operations was dealing with it. So they met and they talked, and apparently the problem did not get fixed. I don't know what happened. We're still looking into it. The problem did not get fixed. Friday came along, person got no return on their investment. We had to process a refund. That's our fault. But that's not even though I could point and say, oh, my team, that's my fault. Because I, somewhere along the line, did not set up each team member to be able to hold the next one accountable. So now we have to go back and look at the process and see what happened. Why did this break? Why didn't this get fixed? Did somebody just make a simple mistake? Or is it something bigger than this? Point is I view it as my fault. I don't view it as the person down at the bottom's fault, because I have to figure out, it's my company. They're not the one who does the refund. They're not the one who wins in the rewards. And you have to do the same thing too, and that includes whether it's your white label partner, your callers, or whatever. You have to know how to steer the ship. Sometimes if I have a client that's out west and they've been getting slow live transfers, I'll send a message to our inbound guys and say, hey, I'll send you an extra, whoever wants it first, I'll send you an extra $30 tonight if you go through and double tap every single one of these leads between this time and this time. Someone always raises their hand, they want the money because it took them a whole day to do what they're about to do in an hour. I'll pay the little extra money and then we'll get a live transfer or two. But I do that because I'm trying to own up and have accountability, because I'm feeling the heartbeat of my business and I know what needs to be done. So please make sure that you have that level of accountability. And here is number 3, but absolutely not the least, and actually I'm going to do this. We'll put 1 was, let's see, 2 was how much you're accountable. Pressure was number 1. And number 3 is potentially the biggest one. I've started writing potential. It is problem solving. Your ability to solve a problem. And I'm going to teach you how to solve almost any problem with this on problem solving. I had, before I was in agency, a cell phone repair shop. Now, if you ever want to get good at problem solving, go open a cell phone repair shop, because somebody will bring in a phone that is supposed to be standard and this and that, and it's doing something weird, and you have to start diagnosing things until you figure out what's wrong with it, and then you get very good at problem solving. And then you figure out not just what the problem was, but then you figure out how you're going to fix it. And as the owner of a company, you know all of the parts that you have in your head pretty much. You knew I had screens here, I have this here, I have all these different things. So you knew what you had. Your employees didn't know all those things because they didn't pay for them. So they might kind of know what was there, but because you spent the money on it, it's stuck in your head, you knew what you had. And I remember that there was a company that we ended up acquiring all of their stuff. It was a horrible business decision on my end. We ended up losing like 50, 60 grand on this deal. But anyways, we acquired a business. It was a CPR cell phone repair shop, and the employees came with it. We put them in a different spot. Now, the owner of that, though, was a genius. He was so smart when it came to technology. He could solder anything. He could figure anything out. But it was weird. I hired him because of that. But the second he became an employee and not the owner, crap hit the fan. He could no longer solve problems. He was calling me nonstop. hey Ross, I have a question. I got this iPad that's doing this, this, and this. What do you think? What do you think? You've had a shop for longer than me. Tell me what you think it is. You know, it's people start, when you're an employee and you're in the business, you tend to have a little bit harder time solving problems because you're not seeing this, 100-foot view of being zoomed out. You really need to zoom out to see it. So that is the tip. If you feel like you struggle to solve problems, that means that you're solving it in the wrong place of your business. You need to get a different viewpoint on the problem. You need to get a zoomed out viewpoint. So here would be an example of that. Let's say you have a client and you are sending them live transfers or leads, and they are telling you, hey, the quality of these are just not that good. Well, I'll tell you what some people do. They think, I need to figure out how to generate bigger leads or better leads. And maybe that's a part of the problem solving, like if you're using a real weird clickbaity type of thing, but that would be like front level. But if you're using the same kind of content you use for everyone else and they seem to be satisfied, then what could be the real problem here? Well, there could be two issues. Here's what we're going to zoom out and look at. What's the real problem? They're saying they're not good. We either don't have proper filters in place to where we're sending them just the stuff that passes through our filters, or we've set an improper expectation. So let's go figure out first, before we go change our entire system, let's figure out what is a bad lead to this person and why do they think it's bad, and did we do something in the sales process that set them up to think that? So then we get on a phone call and we realize that the person says, well, initially the lead seemed pretty good, but the problem is that once we started digging into it, we found out they didn't have a police report. Okay, that is not a bad lead. That was a good lead. You just need more like that. Lead generation, and then you can reset their expectation. Lead generation is a little bit of a numbers game. So if I send you 25, if all 25 of them were perfect, then you would have a 100% close rate and I could charge you 50 grand a month. But that's impossible. So what we're telling you here is that out of the 25 leads that we send you, about 20% are going to close. That means there's going to be some problems with the other ones, which is why it's only 20%. Now, if you want, what we could do is we could have our callers do the pre-qualifying and screen them for you, or however, you can see how that takes the place. But now what you've done is you've solved the problem not by changing the system. You found out that the problem was in the person's expectations. And a lot of times, if you have a nice conversation with them, reset those expectations, then they're okay. We've solved problems just by talking to the person. Nothing else changed. So the point is that as a business owner, what'll happen is they get emotional. They're in the business when they hear this. They're not on it, and they fail to step out and look at it from an onset, and they just see a customer messaging them kind of angry, and they're thinking, oh God, I'm going to lose this guy money, blah, 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 and they fail to solve the problem because now they go back looking at their own systems. They've lost faith and belief in their own systems, and they don't know how to fix it with the client. Sometimes you are generating crappy leads, and then you need to go. But the first thing you would do is you'd zoom out and you say, okay, what's the problem here? Is it the leads, or is it the person, or is it something in between? Okay, well, the system is the same system that I'm using for these other 120 attorneys, so I can't really imagine why the leads would be that bad unless it's just a demographic thing. If it's a demographic thing, then what we need to do, if we're getting an excessive amount of low-quality leads, then let's just add a filter on Zapier that says if you're at fault, you don't pass through, or if it's a slip and fall, you don't pass through. Okay, we've added that in there. But you know what? While we've added that in there, let's go ahead and communicate with the guy and let's reset their proper expectations. So you start problem solving. It's one of the biggest abilities that you can have. It's just to problem solve. If you can problem solve, you will do amazing. Guys, hopefully this is beneficial for you. If you enjoyed this video, do me a favor, like, subscribe to this video down below, and also click the link below. I have a whole training on live transfer agency that's going to help you out. Hopefully you guys can feel the realism behind our content here. I don't want you to think that, I want you to have the real understanding of what it's like to be in an agency, not the pish-posh crap that all of these gurus who just want to sell you a course are trying to teach you. I've also got a really cool agency bundle that you can get down below if you want to learn how to get more appointments, close clients, if you'd like to learn how to run YouTube ads, appointments on autopilot. I've put all that in a bundle down below, and you can grab that. Look forward to working with you guys. Have a great day.